Today, we're looking at Private Reserve's Sherwood Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Private Reserve's Sherwood Green is a green ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a D-like alpha with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Veda that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what I see is it really pushes away, it runs from the water. We get a nice green that's there and a bright blue across the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. It travels farther up the filter paper, which is a little odd, but on the bottom of it, we see a little bit of a very, very light green that's just trailing its way up. It's not 100% running, but I don't expect any kind of real resistance with this ink. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I was very shocked with how it did. It went from an extra fine to about a medium. It didn't blow out, become blurry and unreadable. I was in shock based on that chromatography, but it makes me feel safe using it as a note taker. It's also very surprising when you look at what happens with water. Water is completely reactivating and lifting it off the paper. Now, it's not 100% gone with only 30 seconds, but you see a lot of the white of the paper coming through and easily see the dots of the Rodya dot paper. Pen Flush did everything that water did and nothing more. It's hard to do even more than what the water was doing. The 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the page, but I don't think you're going to need a 1/3 bleach solution to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Sherwood Green has a viscosity of 1.1, making it very wet. Incredibly wet. I was shocked by how wet this particular ink was. I don't know that I've come across a Private Reserve that is this wet before. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rodya paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Sherwood Green has an average dry time of 11 seconds, making this a pretty fast drying ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. Now, that's not a bleed spot, that's me being sloppy, because sometimes I just wind up throwing, as I'm writing the samples, and I just throw the next page down, and it landed on the page above, and it wasn't completely dry. So that's me. Other than that, we have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading, 7 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. The smear test, I think you could recover the extra fine, and I do not think you could recover the medium if you smeared while you were writing. Now this is interesting here because the ink is different on Tomoe River. It looks different. It's going to behave different, but that's okay. Of course, we have ghosting, but we have no bleeding. Lots of ghosting. It's Tomoe River. The 1.1 has no feather, spread. It has halo all over it. Beautiful halo. Tomoe River is not my favorite paper. I don't tend to really enjoy it, but sometimes the tone of an ink is
amazing on it. And this is it. This is one where, like, this green I'm not caring for, but here it looks great. The cream background really sets this ink off. So it has halo, no sheen, and no shading. The extra fine has no feather spread. It has haloing in all over it. Not all of it, but most all of it. Has some nice haloing. No sheen and no shade. It's the same tone as the 1.1. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the 1.1. It has no feather spread. It has halo, an almost complete halo. It's very nice. No sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation, but they do show us the haloing that we're getting in the writing. The smear test. I believe you could recover if you smeared the extra fine, but not the medium. Rodya. Rodya has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade. It's just, The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 7 seconds to dry. The medium is a darker tone than the extra fine, and it's darker than the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby of both show us no color variation, although on camera the extra fine looks like it has some. We're not getting any. And the smear test, I believe you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. So this is Monokaki, Monokaki. We get no bleeding. We get, a significant amount of ghosting. It's a very thin paper. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 5 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than we see in the extra fine or 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, but we got none. And the scrubby of the medium shows none, and that's what we got. The smear test, again, on the extra fine, it looks like you could recover, but the medium, I don't think you could. TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, very minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading. The extra fine looks like it's slightly lighter as a tone, like 1 tone lighter than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 7 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than even the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby of both the extra fine and the medium shows no color variation, and we got none. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Moleskin. So the medium doesn't do too well with it. The extra fine's not the end of the world. Neither of these touch the page underneath. The extra fine, you might, use your choice, be able to use the back of the page if you had to. Medium, you couldn't. But it does not bleed all the way through. So there's that. The medium, it has no spread, but it has crazy feathering all over the place. It's bad. No halo, sheen, shade. I'm going to move past it because I'm not going to move past it. Look at that. Shame on you, Moleskin. Oh, you make premium paper. You make premium priced paper. Just horribly performing. But people will know that work with fountain pens. And a lot of us, I think, before fountain pens, used these notebooks and said, these are great. And then, picked up a fountain pen and were like, what the crap? The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the medium. The extra fine has no spread, and it has a lot of feathering all over it. Gross feathering. No halo, sheen, no shade. 2 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we got none. But the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Sherwood Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted another nice orange to go with this green. I chose Private Reserve's Shoreline Gold. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Sherwood Green? It's close to the Diamine Sherwood Green. It's just a little bit different, which is funny because it left me feeling like it was just lacking a something. It felt slightly off to me personally as I was writing with it. Now in the swatch it looks gorgeous, but in the writing I just felt a little off about it. I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I sampled it. I used up my sample. I won't buy another sample because something just feels off in the color. I don't know. Thanks for watching.